Don't bite off more than you can chew. There's a lot of people that unfortunately practice all fruit diets, usually without any kind of proper transition. They think that the idea of eating nothing but fruit sounds good. It makes sense because it is. But they miss out on the fact that we've been eating so poorly and so wrong for so long that we're going to need a serious transformation and transition to go back toward the diet of our ancestors. So in this video, I want to explore this idea a little bit, talk about the importance of transition, explore some of the case studies where people have problems. This is a question I still get where people say, you know, I've been eating nothing but fruit for a couple months and I got teeth that are starting to loosen up or teeth are starting to fall out. So this video is for you, and this video is for anybody else that doesn't think that it's important to transition on this path. So I'm Professor Spira. I've practiced something called the Mucusless Diet Healing System for over 18 years. I've helped thousands of people transform their lives using the methods of the Mucusless Diet Healing System. And one of the earliest and oldest articles that I ever posted on what was arnolderrett.us, which is now Mucus-free-Life.com, is Art of the Transition, a response to Stanley Bass. And Stanley Bass wrote this article where he basically just trashed Arnold Ehret. He talked about how he was into the methodology for a while, and he was like, yeah, I like what he had to say, and eating nothing but fruit made sense. So what this guy did was what a lot of people unfortunately do, which is just go a long period of time eating nothing but fruit. And off the top of my head, I'm not sure exactly how long, but if I recall, it was like a year or two. And as he was eating nothing but fruit for these couple years, he started to have really bad teeth problems. His teeth started to decay, and he lost them. And he then turned around and blamed the fruit diet, and he blamed Arnold Ehret very without cause, blamed Arnold Ehret for this being a poor idea of humans eating nothing but fruit. He tried it, he lost his teeth, he couldn't do it, so it's not something that should be tried or be done. And he got off into some other kind of philosophy of diet and healing. So here's the problem. First and foremost, Professor Arnold Ehret never said that you should just eat nothing but fruit. That's not what he said. He theorized and observed that humans biologically are fruit eaters, and that when we eat the foods that our bodies were designed to eat, there is a tendency for us to heal ourselves of many ailments. That's what he said. There's also several lessons 15, 16, 17, depending on which edition you have, called Transition Diet, parts 1, 2, and then the vegetarian recipe add-on, which was added a bit later by editor Fred Hirsch. These whole sections, whole huge part of the book that is all about the importance of transition and the methodology of how to transition properly. Somehow Stanley Bass must have missed that. He must have missed that part of the book, as did Steve Jobs, as did Ashton Kutcher, as did a number of other people, a long list of people who failed to transition and failed. I don't know how they missed it. It's a very prominent part of the book. But somehow they read the philosophical part of humans being and originating from fruit eaters and being a fruit-eating species. They got that part, but they missed the entire, because not only does he talk about transition in the transition diet lessons, but all throughout the book. The slow change of evolutionary changes, gradual changes over time, and the methods to do that. Very important. So to me, the most important, perhaps the most important part of the book, of the work, transition diet. So for folks that are, as we said, biting off more than we can chew, it's a cautionary statement to folks that are, hell-bent on trying to be fruitarian, want to eat nothing but fruit. Or if you're starting out and you're saying, hey, this sounds like a good idea, I think I could do that, let me eat nothing but fruit. Be careful, because no one formally is telling you to do that, at least coming from the Mucusless Diet standpoint. Now, those of us that have practiced the Mucusless Diet for a long time, we've went through periods where we did eat nothing but fruit for extended periods of time. Some of us for long periods of time. But when we do it, we generally do so totally mucus-free. So when we do 100% fruit, we don't include the avocados in that equation. We don't include the fatty things and other things that really need to be eaten with vegetables, not with other fruits. Culinary fruits versus, that's another video to talk about. Culinary fruits versus fruits by definition. But it took transition to get to that point. When Brother Air did a year eating nothing but fruit, that happened 20 years into doing some supreme transition on the Mucusless Diet. Really supreme transitioning for 20 years. Then he did a year eating nothing but fruit. Then he started to do a lot of fasting after that, but not before that. And so now what's happening, we have people that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years into whatever it is they're trying to practice, raw foodism or fruitarianism or whatever it is, and they feel great at first, but then they start having massive issues. And so that's a big part of the problem. And that is the one thing that I really, really want to get out to everybody. That it's all about the transition, and this is not a race. Get that type of mindset out of your head. This is not a race. This is not a competition. This is about a fundamental transformation of your blood and of your bloodline. If you accept the challenge, if you see the value in that, and if you can accept the challenge and the power of what I just said. Transformation of your bloodline. This just isn't about you. It's about humanity. The human species, transformation and evolving from Homo sapien to Homo spiritus, but it's not going to be done with baby back ribs and cow and pig intestine. But it's also not going to be done by trying to skip over and not deal with the wrong that we've done. Dealing with the transition. It's not going to happen. We have to engage with the transition. We have to go through the things that are not always as fun. Once you get a taste of what it is to eat nothing but fruit for periods of time, of course you want that. That feels wonderful. But physiologically, you might not be clean enough to deal with that. When Stanley Bass started losing his teeth, it wasn't that the fruit caused him to lose the teeth. It was the massive amount of toxic waste that this dude still had in his body, and he didn't gradually eliminate it. And so as that stuff started to just come out and seep out of his system, the teeth were gone. That was going to be it. And believe me, you could now as we're talking about teeth, I perhaps surprise some people, maybe not. I've never really had too many people come to me and say anything negative about this point. But I'm an advocate for naturopathic dentistry. I think it's a good idea to have somebody that is using non-invasive kinds of materials and fluoride-free and all of that. Go through, give a really good cleaning. Let's get the oxygen up in there in the gums and make sure, that they clean that out really good. And if there is an issue, some kind of cavity issue, and you can oil pull, you can do all that. But if after you have sufficiently oil pulled and you have done all of those, that in some cases it's said that has healed people's cavities, if you've done that and you still have some issues, there's still a detection of a cavity, which it's hard for you to detect until it's too late. That's where the naturopathic dentistry can be a lifesaver, because it's like I say, use the technology when it is positive, when it is good. Detect that. If it's just a little spot in the dentin, let's get that out of there. I think that's rational. Dig it out, put some porcelain in there or something, not metal, not something mercury. I mean, that's ridiculous. But just cover it up in there, patch it up, and then let's move on. Because if you don't, then, like I said, give your oil pulling a try. But in many cases, that, in my opinion, and what I've seen, that's not like an end-all be-all going to heal and correct certain levels of cavities. If you got something that's just starting off and you can start, you get into the oil pulling, and you can look that up. I won't, if people want to know the oil pulling I do, I use coconut oil. There's a lot of information out there on that. One day I'll make maybe a video of what I do, but you can look that up, oil pulling, and you swish it in your mouth for 20 minutes and then spit it out, kind of thing. That is something that can be, I think there's definitely positivity to that, but I wouldn't rely on that. Like I wouldn't rely on herbs as this end-all be-all. First and foremost, you want to be transitioning gradually enough where you're going to be able to control the situations up here. Now, keep in mind, if you're doing a fast or you're going through some kind of intense elimination and you go through a mouth elimination and it feels like your teeth are kind of loose, my recommendation, this is not medical advice, but my recommendation is that's not when you want to go to the dentist. Don't go to the dentist yet. Finish out that fast. What generally will happen, that's part of the elimination. The lymphatic, all the juices are moving and stuff. That's why this can sometimes get inflamed. If you're going through that kind of elimination, your gums get inflamed. You're going to want to let that take its course. That's not the time, and that's generally when people want to go. It's like, oh, my mouth, everything is, when that's going on, let the fast take its course. Properly fast, make sure you're properly fasting, check out rational fasting, that kind of thing. But because if you go to the dentist, they're going to start talking about, okay, we're going to have to pull these out type of stuff. What happens, and I'm talking from experience for me, is the several times this has happened, I just fasted through it, and then once that elimination is over, the gums hold back of the teeth, and everything's back to normal. It's just part of that process. But if you have a little cavity, to me it makes sense to deal with it early, because if you don't, then, and it starts to get deeper and deeper into your tooth, past the enamel, down into the dent, and you get down into, and it just rots out, you're going to lose a tooth anyway. There's no way to come back from that. There's no amount of oil pulling. Once you get to a certain level, there's no kind of oil pulling that's going to deal with that. A response to the people, a lot of the meat eaters that try to make that argument that, the fruit eaters are losing their teeth and that kind of stuff, I would point you to the number of meat eater. Like the stereotype of the toothless person is not a fruit eater. The toothless stereotype person is generally somebody who is a hardcore pus eater. So let's not even go down that road, and just understand that everybody's going to have different weaknesses. Some people might, if you have a lot of weaknesses up in your teeth, or you got a lot of toxic stuff up here, maybe certain drugs that you used to do, there's a number of different reasons, then you might have some casualties up here. And it's just the cost of doing battle, trying to heal yourself, put yourself back together. You might not come out of it with every one of your teeth, but going down the pus route, there's no guarantee that you might have lost even more teeth, and you still are in a place of profound sickness physiologically. So put all that aside, and let's focus on the transition. Let's focus on really transitioning as good as we can. Address this issue. If you transition properly, you're cleaning out your colon, you're eating your fruits and vegetables, you can have your transitional mucuses, you're doing these things, your chance of having those kind of issues, especially with the teeth and other issues, is going to be very, very small. Everybody's case is different. Everybody's situation is different. But as a rule of thumb, that is what you want to do. Transition, transition, transition. So I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to this channel, hit the share button, share this with your friends and family so that we can expand this consciousness. So many more people really need to understand this stuff. For me, I'm not saying anything really revolutionary, but because of the society, because of the way things are, it is. And so I take on that and say, we got to do this together. We're in this together. One of us isn't going to do it. We're not going to change everything. One person eating nothing but fruit, or one person being mucusless, that's not what it's going to do. But it starts with you. It starts with you getting yourself together. It starts with you getting on and mastering the transition. Try to master the transition. Don't just do it. Don't just do it begrudgingly. Dive into it, immerse yourself into it. Try to master it. Because it's challenging, but it's fun. You know, it's fun to try to just figure out how to do this thing sometimes, because it gets so deep. So I thank you so much. And before you go, I want you to take a look right here. And this is a video that I made specifically for you. It's a great video, and I want you to really hope that you'll check it out. So just click right here, and I'll see you over there.